Hey guys, welcome to Serial Killer, the podcast where we eat cereal and talk about serial killers. Mm-hmm. Not always serial killers.
No, I like to say violent criminals.
Violent criminals.
Yeah.
But on brand, we'll just say serial killers
yeah.
because that seems to be the most on brand statement to say. My dog agrees with me. I actually don't know that you guys can hear that, so now we just sound crazy.
We're just referencing noises that we hear and no one else can.
Like,
it's fine. It's really
whatever.
fun.
The dog is speaking to me like one
like,
of our
yes.
episodes. Oh, God. Today we're talking about the Keddie murders, which is Keddie. So Keddie.
Yeah.
You know, I'm dyslexic, so it's really great, and I don't hear phonics, so it's really great for me to say the names of things. But they're kind of interesting murders in the fact that they could be part of a serial killer spree, or they could be part of like a gangster situation, or they could just be disgruntled neighbors.
Yes. Some sort of like mistress
teacher
gone wrong type thing.
There's a lot of speculation about it, and most of the speculation I think at the time of the murder was about, well, we should get into that later.
Yeah.
But was about who was the main target, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But we should introduce our cereal.
Yeah. So, because it happened in a cabin, we went with S'mores cereal.
Which, like, really sounds delicious, you guys.
I'm
so
really excited.
But every time I get super excited about cereal, it's so gross.
See, it also, I worry, has the potential to be the exact same thing as the drumstick cereal, because it's
it's
good.
Of that. I am not scared of that at all, because drumstick was amazing.
I'm just over here like, I want all my cereals to be different and have their own representative quality.
Oh, you really want them to be Nilla cereal again?
No, it's so bad.
Different.
And then we got confirmation that it's bad from like multiple other people who tried it.
But then we had one of our co-hosts on One More Drink.
Yeah.
He liked it so much that I was like, please take this cereal. And he took it home to his wife, who confirmed it's nasty.
Yeah, it's gross.
So,
all right.
Shout out to Terrence for liking nasty Nilla cereal.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, I want to get a little bit of everything.
That's really good.
So, Honey Maid S'mores cereal has like...
so it's got the Honey Maid graham cracker bits, and then they have little tiny marshmallows and chocolate puffs.
Okay, I'm going to try it dry. Which sounds very sexual now. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good dry cereal.
That's great.
It's a great dry cereal.
Eat up by the handful, make a crispy treat out of that.
I mean, how can you go wrong with that, right?
Right.
All right. It does taste different from drumsticks.
Yeah, it's definitely different, which is good. But it's made by Honey Maid, which is why I think it's so on point.
What is it just Honey Maid? Honey Maid's made... Oh,
it's Honey Maid and then Post, yeah.
Okay, I was like, who's partnering with them? Honey Maid's just like, I'm going to make one
we'll
cereal.
We'll just start making cereal. It will be one. I mean, honestly, if Honey Maid started making cereal, they could do all kinds of, like, flavored graham cracker shit, and I would be there for it.
What more graham cracker shit do we need, though?
We could do just plain graham cracker cereal, chocolate graham cracker.
I'm sorry, I poured your milk for you, and
it's
that's
fine.
Like, so personal. That's like so personal. I'm so sorry.
I don't feel offended at all.
I feel offended. I don't know, maybe this is one that needs a little bit more milk than I thought. Is your milk ratio good? Okay, I don't know a little bit more. Milk ratio is so personal.
Yeah. It's a difficult thing. Well, and then there's the crazy people who pour the milk before they pour their cereal.
Or the crazy people that are like, I'm gonna sit it here for like a
for like
long
30
while.
minutes and then come back and eat this soggy bowl of mush. My dad does that.
My sister and my dad used to do that. Also, you know what they did that was weird too, was they would put milk in their ice cream, or let their ice cream sit until it's almost like a soup.
And then you just like drink it?
Like, so you just want cold soup, and that's weird. Okay.
You're just describing a milkshake at that point. Like, you can get that. You can do that. You don't need to let it sit. There's no logic. This is delicious.
This is really good.
I'm very about this.
I think it's better with milk.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really good dry, which is kind of a rarity. Now, I feel like so many of the cereals that we've tasted so far have just been purely milk cereals. Cause, like, well, this is definitely one that you could...
The donuts, I would say,
a bag of it
were the, like, most... They were bad with milk.
Yes.
They were a lot better on their own, and the box smelled the best. It smelled like cake mix.
It did smell like cake mix, which
like, I appreciated that alone.
Like that was gonna be great.
Yeah, no, and then it was just like, oh, this is way too sugary.
So this is a very high knife up for me. Knife up.
Knife up.
Knife up, dry, knife up. Melt. I'm pretty much saying that, like, post Honey Maid S'mores cereal is a perfect cereal.
Like, melts in your mouth. It's so good.
And not in your hand. Is that trademark? Oh shit.
M&M is gonna sue us, or Hershey.
I almost said I'm sorry for cursing, but then I realized
That's not a curse. And also, this is a podcast, so it doesn't matter.
It was just, I was coming off of doing a panel where I was like, stop saying shit, stop saying shit, stop saying shit. And then, of course, every time I was like, in my head saying, don't say shit, I'd be like, shit. I'm like, ah! So, I can curse here, so it's fine. This is an amazing cereal. And one of the reasons we picked it was because the Keddie murders were done in cabin.
Yeah.
In a cabin.
Yeah, what? I was like, I didn't look too much into the area, but it seemed like a sort of vacation-y, like, mountain resort almost. Not resort, but like...
I guess so. See, to me, vacation means Europe.
It seemed like one of those places that, like, dads would go and take their kids fishing.
100%. I am about to go camping, so I think this is one of the reasons I was like, we should do this one. And so this is probably my fear of manifesting in some weird way.
So there are whole books written on the amount of people that go missing in national parks every year.
Well,
it's like a real thing. Sorry, as you go to Yosemite.
Shit. So it's weird because it's in Central California. It's in the Sierra Nevadas.
Yeah.
Which I hadn't had a lot of contact with until this year, actually. Earlier this year, I drove to Lake Tahoe and I drove back. I drove up and then there was like this like cute little weird route, and then on the way back I drove through, we're like, let's take a different route, and I drove through the Sierra Nevadas, and I was like, we're gonna get murdered everywhere we went. And of course I was like, it was like me and my mom, and so of course we were listening to their like
murder podcast
the whole way, and I was like, murder. We stop at this diner, we're the only, like, you know,
there's like one other customer. Yeah.
There's a girl that's like, this family roams in and they're like, oh, we're staying in a cabin at the whatever, and then they're like, oh, that's where that happened.
No.
Blah 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 blah.
No.
And I was like, holy shit, I know a fucking movie. And then what role am I playing?
Yeah.
Please inform me right now. So like I've been in the
Have
area.
that vibe. Yeah.
I had the area. It's very white.
That's the thing about California that's super interesting.
Yeah.
Is like, we have these giant, like, well, I say that like I'm from here, but I'm not. But California has these like big major metropolitan areas that have all of these like different cultures and
that
people
think is California.
And then you go like an hour maybe, like an hour and a half in any direction away from the coast, and it's just like,
it's so different.
Rednecks. Like, it's so strange. I mean, we have the same thing in Massachusetts. I think it happens everywhere. That the further away you get from major cities, the more you have the people who've never left.
You can't have 100% of a state be a
major
city.
No.
That's just not, unless you're DC.
In which case, it's only that city.
Which is, okay,
I
just proved myself
wrong.
wrong.
Hilarious, because my boyfriend's from Rhode Island, and I was like, well, no, Providence is so small, and then it's nothing.
I don't think Rhode Island gives you any.
You have a half of a city? Oh.
Yeah, I'm not sure that, but, so that area is very, kind of like, leave me alone.
Yeah. This is my property.
But I don't feel like they're friendly.
It's not, I would say, it's not like the hills have eyes.
No. I wouldn't say that at all. I feel like when I did stop at, like, the cafes or when I stopped places, everyone was very nice.
Yeah.
They were quieter and kept to themselves until they realized that you wanted to talk, and then they were fine with talking. I think they were just very respectful of whatever your speed was.
Yeah, they'd let you
which is
that.
Very nice. Super nice. So that's the kind of community that this woman was moving into. She moved with her kids.
Yeah, so it was Sue Sharp?
Sue Sharp is her name. And
mom.
she had a really interesting husband who was molesting. It sounds like the two girls were molested.
Yeah, she had 5 kids in total.
Yeah, and 2 of the girls.
2 girls and then 3 boys, and the girls were like in the middle.
And they were both sexually abused by their father. And he was a military guy, so I'm sure that wasn't easy to, like, even
deal with or let go of or get out of.
So she did the amazing brave thing. I'm not sure what the tipping point was.
No one really knows.
But she, you know, uprooted her family and moved into a cabin in Keddie, California, which is, you know, in Central California. And they moved into a cabin, and they moved into cabin 28.
Yup.
And it was a great community because the kids just would run from cabin to cabin, staying in cabins. Like, it was that, and it's the 80s, you know? It's like 1980 when they move in, 1981 when the murders happen. So it's like this freedom, this like...
It's the latchkey kid. Yeah. Everyone's... And it sounded like it was this, like, short-term rental type cabin. Some people would stay there for a while, and other people were just there for, like, a few weeks.
Yeah, it sounded like there was a lot of different types of people that were staying in there.
Like, and, like, the kids could make friends, they could go down and hang out in the woods.
In fact, some of, and when we get into the murders on April 11th, let me just take out my little notesies. And most of these notes are from the People Magazine Investigation ID show that I watched, where we actually got to hear one of the daughters, the surviving daughter,
interesting,
speak about it, which I thought was very interesting because I've heard a lot of podcasts about it. I've heard a lot of other stuff, and there was a few little differences from some of the stuff that I heard. I mean, not major, just hearing it from her mouth was just a little different.
Yeah.
But so they were in Plumas County, Keddie, California on April 11th, 1981. They were staying in cabin 28, which, you guys, is now gone. The rest of the cabins are there.
Yeah.
But they have torn it down because they didn't want looky-loos. And
people were starting to... Yeah, it was getting weird.
I mean, getting weird, and I mean, I would have been weird too, but anyway. But now I don't have that,
Do you think they built another cabin, or are they just gonna, like, leave the plot?
No, I saw a picture of it. It's just rubble.
Weird.
It's just, like, they demolished it, and there's just, like, a pile of rubble. Wow. Unless they've removed
they probably
the rubble
cleaned the rubble, but now it's...
Yeah.
That would feel like building a house on an Indian burial mound. Like, you're just inviting bad things into your life.
There's been movies about that. Like, it's not great.
Yeah.
It's not a great thing. Like, don't do it.
Does not go well
but
for
if
most.
you do, invite me. Just for a little bit. Also, one of the things before we get into the actual case that I just have to discuss, because, like, this is something that comes up all the time, and I've talked to my friends about it, and I've talked to, like, you know, I just don't get this concept, and maybe it's because I grew up in Los Angeles. One of the things that they kept saying, and they've said in multiple documentaries about it, is that it was a kind of community where nobody locked their doors.
Oh, okay.
Why don't you lock your doors? Like, even if you think that, like, you're completely safe, why do you want people having access to all your stuff, or just being able to come over all the time? I don't understand. I don't understand.
It's okay.
Lock the doors.
It's okay.
No, it's not.
It will be okay.
It's not. It wasn't okay for them.
Well, no.
It wasn't okay for them. And it's never okay in these circumstances because they go, well, it was a kind of community where nobody locked their doors, and then somebody
just walked into their house
and killed them.
This is true.
Why?
My mom grew up in a community like that in New Hampshire. It was on this road that at the time, in like 2 miles, had like 3 houses, and between the 3 houses, I think they had 15 kids. And so they just, like, no one locked their doors, and the kids just, like, ran around until it was time for dinner. And then
just to save money on keys.
No, it was
didn't want to hide a key.
It was just how it was. It was, you very much felt comfortable and safe in your neighborhood. You felt like you knew all of the people around you. You knew people were like looking out for your house when you weren't there.
Well, and I get that because I have a community like that. Yeah. I live in a home where my neighbors are always watching out for us. We have a great neighborhood watch. I feel safe. Even when unsafe things happen here, I know people have my back. Yet, guess what?
Yeah, you still lock your door.
Lock my door.
No, it's one of those things that is like, it's a good idea until it goes wrong. Like, it's fine until one thing bad happens, and then it's like everyone sees how stupid this was. Because you just are implicitly trusting all of humanity. Like, that's what's happening, is you're just like, no, everyone will be a good person.
I get, even if you think that everyone's going to be a good person, but, like, there's still, like, your privacy.
The reality. But this was
even
also...
if you don't think you're going to get killed, just be like, I don't really want Fred coming into my kitchen every day.
And this is something that, like, I lived with an ex-boyfriend, and whenever I was home, I wouldn't lock the door behind me, because, like, I was like, I'm home, like, I'm doing things, I don't understand why I need to lock the door, and my boyfriend would get home and be like, what the fuck, why aren't you locking the door, and he was like, you should just always lock the door, like, someone could come just barging in and, like, rob you or kill you or something.
Or just, like, make a sandwich, and that's weird. Like,
that's true.
Or, like, use your cable, or...
But yeah, I just like, if I'm home, I feel comfortable enough to not lock my door. It's a weird personal comfort thing, I think. Yes. And especially back in like the 70s, it was the like latchkey kid generation where if you worked, you were just like, well, here's a key and I'll be home in time for dinner. Have fun. Don't die. I hope you go home because I have no way to check on you.
I think that's the main thing. It's just like, there's just this weird... I don't know. I for the life of me, I can't get this concept. I just really can't. Like, I get that you may feel so safe, but also there's just like the privacy thing. There's just like you not wanting people. Like, I love having people over when I want them to.
Yeah.
But I don't want you just dropping by and able to come into my house.
That was the thing that people did. They were just like, oh, we'll just drop by and see what happens. When my parents lived near their best friends, sometimes they would do that and just be like, now they would like text each other and be like, hey, what are you doing? We were thinking of coming over. But like, yeah, I remember being a kid and being like, well, just drop by and see what's up.
I mean, people do it, but they can't just walk into my house. I'm just saying.
I had friends do it, and when I was in like middle school and stuff.
Well, this is the kind of culture they lived in. This is the kind of place that they lived in.
No one locked their doors.
Nobody locked their doors.
Dun, dun, dun.
And there was a lot of cabin hopping.
Yeah, it sounded like the kids especially had like friends at all the cabins, so people weren't always sleeping in the place that they were originally designated.
Correct. So on April 11th, 1981, Sheila, the oldest daughter, was like, I'm gonna go stay at the cabin next door.
Yeah.
And it was said that a couple, like the younger kids, wanted to stay at that cabin too, because they had some, younger kids too. And Sheila was like, no, I want my own time. These are for the big kids. Like, you guys stay in our cabin.
When you're one of 5 with a single mom, I'm sure getting your own shit is so important.
So important, but I think she felt...
Oh, I'm sure.
A little bad. And 100% not her fault. So she comes home the next day, and this is where, like, the podcast get it differently. Than her account that I saw on the ID show, People Magazine Investigates. She said that she came home and she walked in and she saw these bodies on the ground. She wasn't quite sure who it was, but she was just panicky. And so she ran back to the cabin that she was staying in. And then the adults called the police. And then their teenage son went over to the house and like walked in and saw all of this. And then he like peeked into the back to see if the kids were alive, and they were like sleeping. So he opened the window and got the kids out so they didn't see any of it.
Man.
But this may be a moot point.
Yeah.
Because we'll go into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Because there was 3 kids sleeping in the back. 2 of them were her kids.
Yeah.
And 1 of them was a friend. The victims were stabbed and beaten. They were tied together, and then there were signs of such extreme struggle. It sounded like the 2 teenage boys really fought to save
the mom.
The mom, Sue Sharp. And the people that were killed were the mom, Sue Sharp, and her teenage son and his friend. And then the 12-year-old daughter, Tina, was missing. Which is the whole thing. So that's the crime.
Yeah.
And then there's all this speculation about the crime, right? They were killed with hammers and
a knife
and stabbed in the neck and face.
But they found the knife in one of the hammers.
And then there is, according to the people investigation thing, they think they found the other hammer.
Yeah, a few years ago.
Which is such a strange story. So, like, a couple of years ago, there was, what's it called? There was a guy walking along the river, and he found this hammer. And
he had a metal detector.
And he was like, what's this hammer? And he threw it in the lake. And then he, like, went back home, and he was, like, thinking about it. He was like,
I should go and get that.
I should have figured this out. And so then he went on the website. I think it's like Keddie.
Yeah, there's a website that's still
Keddie28.com.
Yeah, and it's like where they're still raising money and awareness and trying to get the investigation going again.
So it's Keddie28.com, and he contacted the website, and the website contacted the police, and the police came out and they like went to the lake and they found the hammer, and they've been analyzing it since. They think
that they can get
it's
like
same
particle evidence or something, because now they have like crazy carbon fucking science.
The science from the 80s to now is
it's insane.
It's such an insane leap. So there's a lot of theories about what may have happened. There was a lot of like slut shaming of Sue Sharp.
Yeah.
Saying that she was like a prostitute or she was a drug addict, and both of those have been kind of disproved because everybody in the neighborhood said she was just a sweet,
she was just like a mom,
like really sweet mom, and they did toxicology on her, and there was like
nothing in her system,
like, no kind of drugs in her system, and no proof that there had been ever in her system. There was a theory that it was possibly a teacher that was obsessed with Tina. I think that was completely disproved because I think he had an alibi, but he was creepy because he had a picture of Tina on his desk at work and at home.
Okay, that's really creepy.
Right?
That's super creepy.
And the sad thing is, like, if you see pictures of Tina, she looks like the saddest, most abused, like, little girl. She's 12 years old, and she just has those eyes that have seen too much.
Oh, yeah, that just say, I know this.
So sad, and,
I know the pain life can be.
Yeah, and it does kind of seem like maybe it was about her, because that's the other thing. She was missing.
That's the big question. That's
the big question.
Because there was also speculation that Sue was sort of coming in between her neighbor's marriage.
Right.
And so he, like, the husband was thrown into speculation.
Right.
And I read, I can't remember, I think it was a Thought Catalog article, that a few years ago they found a letter between him and his then, like, estranged wife. Yeah, where he, like, he said some interesting things that implied that he did it, but didn't outright say, like, I did this.
Well, I kind of feel like he might have, because I'll go into that in 1 second, but, like, so Tina, 3 years to the day that they get murdered, somebody finds her skull and a couple of her bones, and at first they just think, oh, we found... This is so weird. Like, we found some, like, indigenous tribes burial ground or something.
No.
And then, so they're just kind of like, okay, skull. And I think they're going to eventually catalog it. But then they get 2 phone calls saying that you found Tina. And then they they do, carbon, they do all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
all the science.
And all the science. And they
all the 80s
out,
science.
They found out that it's her, and
Tina,
she died that year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think they can tell that if it was that day, but... Because one of the things they keep saying is, like, at least she wasn't held for a long time.
Yeah.
And I don't know that you can actually tell that
in the
so
80s,
much.
I don't think you could.
But I
think
that
now,
makes you feel better.
Yeah, and I think now they probably could, because, like, so have you listened to Bear Brook podcast?
No.
Oh, it's super duper interesting. It's about a cold case that they think they solved with DNA evidence, and it was these 3 people found in barrels in the woods in New Hampshire. But a lot of it talks about, like, the science behind all this DNA evidence and how now they have the ability, like, they figured out, like, where these people were from, like, originally. God. Like, there's some crazy shit. So, like, yeah, if they had found it today
I think
then we probably could have been like, oh, she did die within a week of her family or something.
But honestly, I'm not sure that the family needs to know.
I don't think, no, I think just...
how long she was kept.
Yeah, no, I think just the fact that she's, like, confirmed... gone is all they need.
So they had a tape of this guy saying that, and both tapes were
they the same, or were they super?
No, they were just lost. Until recently, but we'll go into that too.
Like those Doctor Who episodes,
right? But going into the neighbor and his like whole thing.
Yeah.
So the kid. In the back room that wasn't theirs was the neighbor's kid, and he starts remembering stuff.
Yeah, he's like the main witness for the police for a while.
And at first, I'm gonna quote. He says they were watching Love Boat and they went to sleep, and that he remembers like waking up and seeing the mom. Sue Sharp getting slashed across the chest by 2 men, and then the boys being attacked by a hammer, and then their bodies being thrown off the Love Boat. That's what he remembers.
Yeah, because he's like, he has a bunch of sort of dream-esque, because there's one where they're like on an island and he remembers this, but then he like, it ends with her being on the couch or something.
So he's remembering. He definitely saw it, because that's how she was slashed across the chest. They were beaten with hammers.
Yeah.
I mean,
there are details he couldn't have known.
Right. He saw something, and then he described the 2 men, and one looked just like his stepfather, who was an abusive motherfucker.
He didn't sound great.
Yeah. At one point, he abused the kid and his mom so bad they fled, and he tried to run them over with a car. Like, he's
awful.
He also hangs out his bestie.
Yes, his bestie who was staying with them.
His bestie that was staying with him is a huge time gangster.
Yeah.
Huge time gangster, and he moved out here, and he kept going back to Vegas, and he seems untouchable. Both of them seem untouchable. They met at the VA hospital. And they both seem like the cops, every time the cops can go somewhere, they're told to stop.
Yeah.
These guys. So almost like he's an informant.
Yeah.
And then they also have, like, times where they're kind of almost confessing to it.
Yeah, it's really weird. They get really bold with it. And so, it very much, and then the guy, when he gets the friend, whatever his name is, Bootaby.
I can look it up.
It's like... Yeah, it's one of
Bo.
those weird. Begins with a B and there's a D in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
But when they question him, his story doesn't make a lot of sense. It seems like super easy lies to fact check.
Well, they're like, we went drinking together or something.
Yeah, and they were like, oh, we went drinking, and then we like left because the bar manager was stupid, and like we didn't like the music, and then we went back to drinking. And they claimed that
not an alibi.
And they claimed that they had gone with his wife to ask Sue if she wanted to come with them to go drinking. But then later when he's like, did you ever meet her? He says no, clearly, like, So, like, it just
and
is all fishy.
And the stepfather, his wife was saying that Bo was always hitting on Sue, and Sue was like, no thanks. And then that was possibly a motive. His name is Bobade.
That's what I thought.
Bobade. I'm gonna say it's Boubade.
Yeah, Bobade.
Bobade.
I would say it like that.
So that's an interesting name.
Oh man.
Yeah, and so the stepfather, who I should stop calling stepfather, so I should probably.
I know her name is Missy. I didn't care at all about this man.
Yeah.
I just know that he's already dead.
He is. Both of them are
Both of them died, yeah.
One
of them, Bobade, I want to say, died in the 80s. He died in, like, 86. It was not. 88, maybe.
Yeah, of natural causes.
Yeah.
So that's real sweet. Fucking guys always get off. I know his name's, like, John or Joseph. But
it's something really basic.
Yeah.
And their last name also began with an S, I want to say.
Yeah, it was like Smart.
Smart with 2 T's.
Smart with 2 T's. I think it's John Smart. Oh, Justin's stepfather. I think it's like John Smart.
Yeah.
And, oh no, Marty Smart. Sorry.
Even worse.
So wrong.
Awful name.
Marty Smart wrote a letter to his wife when they were breaking up. Begging them to stay together, and he said, and I quote, I bought your love with I bought your love
with with 4 people's lives.
With 4 people's lives. Yeah. I bought your love with 4 people's lives. So it kind of seems like he did it.
I was gonna say, that feels like a confession, but then he died in 2006. So even if he did do it, and they can prove that he did it, like, the most anyone's gonna get is probably a case closed.
Yeah, and
I don't know what legal action can be done, if any, at this point.
Well, I mean, you could try them.
Go after the estate?
Well, no, you could just solve, kind of trial by, and then they're solved. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, but they reopened the case, because Reddit is obsessed with it.
Yeah, it
is. Reddit, definitely started the investigation, so good on you, Reddit. There is also a theory that it's these 2 serial killers.
Yeah, because they moved into Keddie, which was apparently like fucking Camp Crystal Lake.
It definitely was.
It was just like, what goes on here? Murder. A lot of rape and murder.
Yeah, well, there's nothing else to do.
What
else are you gonna do?
Well, that's true. And if you're a serial killer, it's like there's a bunch of land you can use to dump stuff. Bunch of woods. No one's gonna
Nobody's locking their doors or checking up on you.
Exactly.
But it was Leonard Thomas Lake and his accomplice Charles Ng, which is Ng, not the way I spelled it. I spelled it ING. You're welcome, everyone. And they are estimated to have raped, tortured, and murdered 11 to 25 victims at remote cabins in Calaveras County, California, in the Sierra Nevadas.
Wait, Calaveras County, like the jumping frog?
I don't even know what you just said.
Never mind. Never mind, this is a really specific Mark Twain thing.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I was like, don't even know.
It's a really weird interest I have, it's fine.
But they are, so they were murdering around the same time in the same area. And
what are the odds?
They are now dead.
Everyone's dead.
Well, Leonard Thomas Lake killed himself by cyanide poisoning.
Shit.
Which is like not a way I want to go.
No, have you ever read about that? How you die by cyanide poisoning? It's awful.
Yeah, like and then Charles Ng didn't kill himself. He died by lethal injection in 1999. So, again, they're not going to say anything, but I don't think they ever said that they didn't. So,
yeah.
And as in, like, pop culture, the only, like, really thing I think that is the Keddie Murders, like, movie is we have The Strangers.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you've watched it. Did you watch it? Okay, so it's so not anything like the murders, except for the fact that it's just, I think the person that wrote The Strangers was like, what kind of person comes into somebody's house and does this kind of stuff, and so, and then I think they were trying to think of a motive, and they said, what if there was no motive, and that's really what The Strangers is. It's just these people that come into somebody's house, and like at one point, I think it's maybe Liv Taylor's character who goes, "Why are you doing this to us?" And then they just kind of say like, "Because we can, and because you were home."
Horrifying.
And I think that's so horrifying. I think that the thing is like everyone's trying to find a motive, but what
if there is none? What if it's like
what if somebody just showed up and said, "I'm gonna kill them"?
I kept on thinking of the murders in Cold Blood, and how it was like, no, there was a safe, and it's just like, there was never a safe. You just murdered a whole family because you wanted to.
Right.
Like, what the actual fuck?
And I think that's the most terrifying kind of crime, and it's a kind of crime that people are just like, I've got to find a justification for. There's got to be a reason. Like, she's got to be a whore. She's Son
of Sam. You know, like, if you look at everyone's like, well, I got to dye my hair blonde because then he's not gonna kill me. Right. And it's like, whoa,
these things are always logical.
Yeah, and I think.
And not everyone's methodical either.
It's also a lot easier to be afraid of the unknown than to be afraid of, like, the killer next door. Because most people who are murdered by someone they know.
Right.
Like I don't even know what the percentage is, but it's, like, in the, like, double, like, tens, if anything.
You know, even, like, with, I was watching a thing about John Bonet the other day, and they said 7 out of 10 people, kids that are murdered, that's their family members that murdered them. 7 out of 10. That's 70% of cases.
Kids.
You're murdered by, and I think it's the same for adults. It's like most of the time you know the person. Most of the time there's like some kind of
some relationship that you had. Even if you're not husband and wife or father son or something like that. Right. There's some. These like senseless, like nobody knows, someone just came in, and it's also like the violence with which the Keddie cabin murders happened. Like, it was gruesome. I didn't look at the crime scene photos, but I know that they're the kind of crime scene photos that need trigger warnings.
Yeah, they're definitely bad, and they're so easy to find.
Don't Google image this, because it's like one of the first things that comes up.
It's not like something you have to be like, I want to see crime scenes.
No, like a lot of like if you Google like Charles Manson, you're gonna get like a whole bunch of photos of him in prison before you get photos of Sharon Tate.
But not with the Keddie murders, and I think it's also because they don't have
there's no one to really put.
But I think that's kind of what The Strangers and spoiler alert. But anyway, that there's possibility that it's no motive and nobody.
It's
because
just
it's
senseless.
Unsolved. It's just senseless violence, and I think that the movie was really good because it was violent. Again, I'm gonna spoil the whole fucking thing for you. So if you want to see it, I'm so sorry.
Stop listening now.
Stop listening. It was not. It was just like these people that came in, and it was really well done because it was just the fear of like, you're at home. And the couple in it, they're having the worst night of their life. Like,
of course.
They're having the biggest fight.
Yeah.
It's not hunky-dory.
Yeah, it's not like, we put the baby to bed, now we're gonna cuddle.
No, they are pissed off at each other to the point where they might break up.
Yeah.
And then somebody attacks them. And it tests everything about them. And it tests their, like, whatever. And then there's just, like, no motive. There's no reason for it. And it's like, I think one of the most beautiful things about the film, and I don't think it has anything to do with Keddie because it was definitely done, I think Keddie was definitely done at night, but the only murder that happens in the film happens in broad daylight.
Interesting.
And they show it, like, they show everybody getting up from work,
going
to make their sandwiches, sending their kids off, the sprinklers are starting, and this guy is just getting murdered.
Damn.
And I think that is like just a great exploration of the crime without exploiting the crime.
Yeah, and that's something that happens so often.
You think that you're like safe in your home, in the veil of day.
But you're not. That would be a really good new reality show, is like putting extreme, not survivalists, but like just being like, hey, how would you like to get home invaded?
Right?
Like, how would you do in a home invasion?
I think a lot of people have like ideas about how they would deal
what
with
they would
disaster.
do, how they would react,
Yeah.
and like my boyfriend and I've been binging Naked and Afraid, and that is like the ultimate show of you have no idea how you're gonna react in a life or death situation, because it changes you. Your adrenaline kicks in. Like you can do things you never thought possible. Or you could also end up being the person who just freezes and has no idea what to do.
As a person that's been in life and death situations, I know what kind of person I am. People always are like, oh, you don't know. And I'm like, no,
I do.
Dude, you don't know the things I've survived.
Yeah.
I really know who I am. And I know what things stop me, and I know what things I've had to like endure and like be like, this is a part where this is the kind of trauma that would stop me, and this is the kind of trauma that don't stop me no matter what. Like, I know that about myself. And so when I say something about myself, I know in that area.
Yeah.
There are certain areas I don't know, like, you know, a lot of people were speculating about like how prepared you are in your house to leave your house. Like, even if it's not a home invasion, like there's a fire, there's an earthquake.
Like natural disaster type. Yeah.
I'm not really that prepared.
Yeah.
I have like a backpack in my car that has like food and stuff like that, and I think that I would just get everything alive out.
Yeah.
And I have, you know, friends that are very, very prepared. And
They know exactly where their stuff is. They know how many minutes and how many seconds it takes to get it and get out.
I tell you, I don't know that matters at all.
No, because when you're in the situation, like, we had in California this summer, like, a pretty decent earthquake. It didn't, like, fuck anything up. Like, some businesses and stuff got messy, but no one, like, got real messed up. But it was this moment where, like, everyone I know was like, wait, fuck, what do I do in an earthquake?
Right, correct.
How am I supposed to react?
How prepared am I right now?
Yeah, and then you realize you're not at all prepared. And then I had friends who had never, like, I'm from New England, I've lived through plenty of blizzards.
Right.
And plenty of times where it's like everything is shut down and you're like, no, this is what I do. And everyone was like, what do you do? And it's like, no, it's pretty easy. I got on lock. I know what to do. I know how to handle it.
I would know.
But, like,
not at all.
An earthquake, my boyfriend and I were like, do you stay inside? Do you go outside? Doorways I know are a myth. And we were just like sitting there like, wait, fuck.
Yeah. And as a person that survived like
multiple
earthquakes, it's like second nature to me. When we had that huge earthquake, I was like, I guess I should get some pants on. Like, that's all I did. And, but then, like, you know, there's a lot of my friends that are like, I'm so prepared. I would be able to get out of things so easily. And I'll tell you, my sister was in Santa Rosa during the fires, lost every single thing. Like, and I don't mean, like, when I went up there, I was like, no, there's going to be like a structure.
Something.
Her house was
to
demolished.
The ground.
Nothing. When I picked them up, they had a plastic bag and their shoes. My brother-in-law didn't even have shoes on, right? Man. And I remember somebody telling me that, like, oh, well, I would be more prepared. And I was like, I will tell you, though, like,
unless you're keeping everything you love dearly in a box next to your door at all times, you're not prepared.
You're gonna lose some stuff. But here's the thing, like, my sister was a kind of person that had a hurt kit. They called it a hurt kit. Had medication.
Because you're supposed to have so many days of all that
stuff. She was planned down. Yeah. When the flames were hitting her house,
when they're coming up the side of your walls,
she grabbed her kids, her dog, her husband, her purse, which
had keys, ID,
which had her like basics, and happened to have her computer, so they
helpful, great, some photos and stuff,
and then they woke up the rest of the neighbors, because one of their neighbors was going through chemo and was asleep, right, and nobody evacuated. You have no idea, clue, no clue. Unless you've been through something like that, and then you know. Like, that's the way it is. And so, like, I don't even know, like, these people, these boys in the Keddie murder that got killed. They probably fought tooth and nail.
So hard.
Like,
no one knows how long they were. It could have been, like, they were fighting back for an hour before.
They were trying to save the abduction of their
brother. Yeah,
brothers.
Oh yeah, that's right. Their sister is still there.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
But yeah, there's
for the people
that's
in
the
the
thing
back.
that's what freaks me out so much is there are those 3 kids that were asleep or like
I don't know if they
just were back there.
Because they don't talk about it. None of them talk about it.
I'm sure they wouldn't. I'm sure it's like the kids in the Michael Jackson documentary where it's going to take like decades and decades
or
of
like
intense
the Simpson
therapy.
Kids who were very clearly near that amount of violence, and I don't know if you can ever talk about that.
No.
Like, I don't know, but it's a sad case. It's an unsolved case. I don't know that we'll ever solve it. I do think there's a strong possibility that we know who did it.
Yeah.
And I do think that you guys should see The Strangers because it's a really good series, actually. It's a good series. And I love horror movies, so I'm also going to always reference them. You're welcome.
I love children's movies, so I got nothing.
And she's always going to reference them.
Toy Story, you know. No, that's bad.
Nope.
Please pretend I didn't say that.
Nope. The Strangers. We give Honey Maid S'mores cereal a knife up.
Huge knife
in
up.
so many different areas. It just checks off all the boxes. I'm, I just want more. And then we give the Keddie Murders a knife down because all murder gets what?
Boo.
A
Knife down.
Because murder sucks.
Murder's bad.
Except for we like to talk about it. It's an oxymoron. Catch-22. It's a sickness. And that's our show.
Oh, I'm Maria.
Oh yeah. Fuck. I'm fuck. Say it full go.
I'm Maria Sbertolozzi. You can find me only on Twitter.
She hates people, and I'm getting there too. I'm Anastasia Washington. You can find me at Anastasia W on Twitter, at Anastasia Wash on Instagram. And you can find us at podcerealkiller on all social media. You can email us podcerealkiller@gmail.com and tag us. Send us your pairings. Send us stuff.
Send us your breakfast cereals.
Send us your breakfast cereals. Not your actual cereal that you ate this morning.
Please don't.
Please
But
don't do that.
I would also love eventually to branch out and start pairing like international criminals with international breakfasts.
Oh. If you will
like
send
one
us,
day, but like we need to know what people eat around the world.
Yeah, like if you're from a different country,
let us know
and let us know your
breakfast traditions,
and also like your murders.
Yeah,
because we probably don't know them.
No, there are so many in the U.S. that it's hard to branch out.
We would love to branch out. So send us that, and don't forget to subscribe and rate us, and be in contact with all kinds of cool stuff. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.